So I've been reading the Manual Handling Operations Regulations 1992, and I've been trying to figure out, is manual handling training a legal requirement or not? Well, kind of depends, as always. Now, interestingly, I was looking at this research written in 2007 by the Work and Health Research Centre for the HSE, and it looked at the effectiveness in manual handling training. I'm aware that the research has shown that there isn't a very strong link, in fact there might be no link whatsoever between manual handling training and reduction of manual handling injuries.
What you talking about, Will?
Which made me think, well, what's the point of doing it then? Let's take a look at what the research says. Now, there are 168 pages to this document, so if you're interested you can read all of it. But for the sake of this video, let's just look at the exec summary and the implications. It says, there is little evidence that manual handling training focusing on handling techniques, so we're on about here training which is just about the handling technique, teaching people how to handle things safely. There's little evidence that training is effective in promoting safer work practices and reducing manual handling injuries in the workplace. So teaching people how to handle things safely was little evidence that it reduces manual handling injuries in the workplace. And I thought, bloody hell.
And that's when I came across the X-Files.
Well, all right, so you're required to do everything reasonably practicable to reduce the risk of manual handling injury, okay? So if you remember your NEBOSH training and the definition of reasonably practicable, which I'm sure you do, when deciding whether manual handling training is reasonably practicable, you have to compare the benefits of manual handling training in terms of risk reduction. So how much does the training reduce the risk by, versus the cost, time and effort of the training. And if the cost, time and effort of the training is grossly disproportionate to how much it reduces the risk by, well, in that case, it's not a reasonably practicable thing to do. But if the costs are not way over the top compared to the benefits of doing it, then it is a reasonable thing to do. Now, according to this research, it kind of seems to imply that doing your bog standard handling technique training, which, could be, how do you pick up a cardboard box in the classroom?
Incorrect.
Yeah, it seems that has little to no benefit whatsoever. In which case, it's not a complete stretch to say, well, the cost, it's going to be a half day to a full day, this training a lot of the time. Imagine if you've got 600 staff and it's like, well, it's half days. 300 half days a year of training, or every 3 years, something like that. Say, the cost of doing that for little to no benefit or reduction in manual handling injuries, it's not rocket science to say all of a sudden it's not a reasonably practicable thing to do. And yet, let's go on. It says, there is evidence that training workers and managers to assess risk and report problems is effective in reducing manual handling injuries. Right, okay, so training people to assess risks. So manual handling assessment, teaching people to, even just workers, frontline workers, teaching them to assess the risks of lifting a load and moving it somewhere, teaching them that can be effective, and also to report problems is effective too.
Report!
There is strong evidence, right, okay, so now it's like really good evidence at this point, that ergonomics interventions, adopting a multi-dimensional approach, read the full report to find out what that means, involving participation of workers and managers, the tailoring of training to suit the person, and specific task requirements. Right, okay, so we tailor the training to suit the people.
Oh, suit you, sir.
Their PPE, their size, gender, and also the specific task requirements. And so tailoring the training to exactly what they're supposed to do. So this is a bucket, this is a bag, this is a whacker plate, this is a pallet truck. Teach them how to lift that load, move that load in that specific situation. That works, along with equipment or task design or redesign, are effective in reducing manual handling injuries. Okay, so if we tailor the training to exactly the types of things that they're supposed to do, there is strong evidence of that. That's interesting. Now let's take another look at the guidance for the regulations. Here we've got the Manual Handling Operations Guidance on Regulations. It talks here about information about the load, any unusual characteristics of loads, and understanding clearly the system of work designed to ensure their safety during manual handling. So you've got to give them information and training on what is it they're lifting, how heavy it is it balanced, or is it, is it side heavy, top heavy? And how exactly, what is the best technique for them to pick that thing up and move it? The guidance does say the HSE does not publish prescriptive guidance on what a good manual handling training course should include or how long it should last. However, in general, courses should be suitable for the individual, tasks and environment involved, use relevant examples, relate to what workers actually do, and last long enough to cover all the relevant information. Right, so again, we've got this insistence on relevance. So this guidance, which was written some years ago, talked about the relevance of the training, which kind of implies that it has to be tailored. And then we've got the research which says there's strong evidence that tailored bespoke approaches do actually reduce injuries. And then it goes on to say such information is likely to include advice on risk factors, how injuries occur, how to carry out safe handling, good handling technique, appropriate systems for this person's task and environment, and so on, so on. Then it mentions practical work to allow the trainer to identify and put right anything the trainee is not doing safely. So that means that the training has to include demonstrations by the trainee.
Down again, same on the way down as on the way up. One more time. That's it. So you got that?
I'll practice it at home.
The trainee has to pick up, move, shift the actual items that they do in their normal workplace, and that they are able to demonstrate good technique to the trainer, probably repeatedly, so the trainer is able to identify what that person's not doing right, and they can then correct them. There we are. So what does this mean for us in practice? It means manual handling e-learning courses on good handling technique. You just forget those. Forget those. Half-hour e-learning course.
Oh, put your feet like this, bend your knees, not your back. Here's the box.
Using some crappy little diagrams nicked off Google. That's not going to work. Little 1 hour sessions in a classroom or 2 hour sessions in a classroom, picking up a cardboard box and moving that around. That's not going to work. That's not what's required. What you're going to have to do is get a proper manual handling trainer. And I think I know one or two of those. I'm thinking Harold Floyd. Get someone in to visit your business to do an assessment of what you move, what are the tasks, what are you moving and how, and to design a course that is relevant and bespoke for your organization. This is going to cost you a lot more money because all that involves time and effort in bespoking the program, but that is not money which is wasted. There is strong evidence, according to the HSE, strong evidence that actually reduces the injuries. And if you're going to spend a lot of time and money doing manual handling training, wouldn't it be better to actually invest in training that works and reduces the injuries, rather than just spending small amounts of money which are completely wasted on ticking a manual handling training box?
Pennies on the dollar, Jesse.
Let's face it, the only reason why we ever do this bog standard crappy manual handling training online or in a classroom is just so you've got a piece of paper to fend off the lawyers with. That's all it is.
Oh, our client is suing you for a manual handling injury.
It's like, give us your manual handling training records, and you're like, here you go, dickhead, have it. There you go. That's the only reason why you do that type of training. It's a tick box mentality to fend off claims. Yeah, which is fine, and I get it, but really, wouldn't it be better if you could have that piece of paper and it's effective at reducing the injuries in the first place? Anyway, rant over. Get some good manual handling training done. That's the moral of that story.